Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've got a really interesting young lady to introduce you tonight. Michelle G is her name, and she runs a matchmaking company, dating advice company. Really, it's almost a advisory for almost everything in life called Incredible Love. She is the award-winning TV host, celebrity love coach, matchmaker, and relationship expert. Michelle G, she's passionate about helping professional singles and overcoming the barriers that hinder them from finding their incredible love. Michelle G, nice to meet you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you. How'd you get into this incredible love business? Sounds fascinating.
Well, I never thought actually that I would become a matchmaker. I didn't even know that really existed. The first time I kind of came exposed to it was through the movie Hitch, but my life had a really interesting turn. Prior to becoming a matchmaker, having my own company, I actually was a U.S. Marine for 13 years. And
you were a U.S. Marine? Really?
I was, a former U.S. Marine for 13 years, and I worked in the field of intelligence. Sometimes they call us spoofs, other people call us spies. But I was very fortunate to be able to be exposed to a range of amazing people and to really learn a lot of relationship building skills through that, through my job. And I got
Hold it. You're saying a spy learns relationship building skills?
Absolutely. Everything is all about relationships, right? Being able to get people to trust you, also being able to influence people is all about building trust and rapport. And so I joined the Marine Corps initially because I wanted to be the first woman president. That's the truth. And that was my goal. But as life would have it, I fell in love with a boy, another Marine. We got married. And it was interesting because in this process, I thought I found my happily ever after. My career was booming, but my marriage wasn't doing so well. And to me, it was so interesting, the fact that I was able to get all these people come together in rooms, generals, and very important people to talk about big topics and be able to influence their decision. But when I got home to my husband at the time, I couldn't get the man to pick up the socks off the floor. And that journey, going through that divorce, deciding that it was time for me to find a new career, really was what pushed me into matchmaking. I ended up going back to school, getting my bachelor's degree in science and social psychology. And it was interesting to me, the fact that I was like, wow, I want to help people, because him and I had gone through like marriage retreats, marriage counseling, everything. And it just wasn't working for us. And that was a real devastating loss to me. And I found that I wanted to help people. My mission, what I wanted to do in the world, was to help people, bring them together through love and help them figure out their differences, because I really do believe that it's possible if you have the right tools and the right skill set. So fast forward, I launched my own company. I wrote a book about all the couples that I was coaching, became a bestseller on Amazon. And then I started getting people who were post-divorce and were like, can you help me regain my identity? Help me get back to me as a coach. And so I did. And the next natural step is like, okay, I feel great. I know you know some great people to introduce me to. And I was like, yeah, some great people. And then I did some research. I'm definitely a nerd. I did some research and I found that there was a matchmaking school. And I was like, you know what?
There's a school for matchmakers.
There is a school for matchmakers. And so I signed up, I got certified, I became a part of this amazing community, and it has been my journey for the last 10 years. And I love it. I love being able to bring hearts together. I love getting wedding invitations. I love the idea of being able to help people find their family or start their family or be a part of that journey somewhere along the way.
Now, you're located in Florida.
We're located in Miami.
Do you do matchmakings across the United States, across Florida? What's your sort of geography?
Yeah, so we work with international and nationwide. As a matter of fact, one of our success love stories, if I can share with you, was actually across beyond state lines, across country borders. So I had a really amazing client who was in California. I introduced her to the love of her life, and he was at the time in Japan. And it started with the Facebook introduction. She didn't believe me. Oh my God, no, you can't have someone perfect. I'm like, I got him. He's fantastic. They met on Facebook. I introduced them. Next thing you know, they ended up meeting in Virginia for the first date. I mean, after having like multiple FaceTime and Zoom dates. And 3 months later, she went to visit him. 3 months after that, they got engaged, and they have been happily married ever since. And I
Living
got to be
where?
a part of the wedding.
Living where?
They're now living back in Virginia. They were living in California, but they decided to move back to Virginia.
Well, it's a real pleasure chatting with you. We're going to come back after some messages and talk about what the keys are, the key components to healthy relationships, both in dating and long-term. Stay with us, everyone. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is the award-winning TV host, celebrity love coach, matchmaker, and relationship expert, Michelle G., who runs a company called Incredible Love. And she is passionate about helping professional singles in overcoming the barriers that hinder them from finding their incredible love. And I guess you must believe there is incredible love
Absolutely.
out there, even after you've had your own disappointment in a marriage. So you obviously have studied relationships. You say you studied these relationships when you were a spy with the U.S. intelligence as a U.S. Marine. You did a social sciences degree in sociology. You've gone to a matchmaker school. So what are they? What are the key components to developing healthy, long-term, good relationships, whether in dating or in marriage or in life?
That's a great question. So Brian, one of the things is that we have to understand that the most important relationship we're ever going to have is with ourselves. We are the teachers of the people in our lives, how to love us, how to nurture us, how to take care of us. So first and foremost, one of the healthiest habit is to be able to establish in a relationship with yourself, to love yourself, right? And we are as individuals forever evolving, right? It's not like you learn to love yourself and that's it, like you've made it. It's a constant process. It's a constant evolution. I would say that that's the number one foundation of being able to have a successful relationship, not only in love, but also with your family, with businesses, with colleagues, with so many different people, because people take cues from you. How is it that you want to be treated?
So how do you figure out how to love yourself?
It's a process of spending a lot of time with yourself. I'm a big believer of discovering new things, spending time in quiet, thinking about what your goals are, thinking about how different things make you feel, paying attention to what's happening in your mind, paying attention to different situations and learning about how you react to them. And going inward is really what I'm trying to say. I think another way to be able to learn to love yourself, honestly, is to not only love the great things about you, but also love the things that, as people would call shadow parts, the things that maybe you're like, ooh, I'm not really good at this, or these are my flaws. Because when we can understand that we as individuals are whole, we are whole no matter what, then we can really learn to embrace and understand that we're all here experiencing the human experience. We all struggle. We all have moments down. We all have highs and we all have lows. And that's, I think, what makes loving yourself, be vulnerable, be compassionate to oneself, practicing compassion. Treat yourself the way you would treat someone that you met and you feel like they're going through a tough time. When you're going through a tough time, give yourself that same compassion, respect, and love. When you're having your high, celebrate yourself the same way you would celebrate your colleagues and friends. And it's a matter of applying those principles. I think secondly, what's really important is we as a society can really do better in being present. When we're present to conversations, when we're present to what's happening around us, really, we don't miss the experience. We don't miss really connecting. We don't miss the moments, and we really create amazing, beautiful memories when we're present. We're really able also to understand the experience we're going through, what we like, what we don't like, how things make us feel. And then last but not least is understanding.
Let me interrupt you on that one, being present, because I think it's really key. And I read this article about rejection, and they said one of the most common rejections that people feel is just when someone's on a telephone. During a date or during a meeting or during a dinner party or whatnot. And that is a micro rejection, but it adds up over time. And what that says is the person isn't present. They're worried about their phone or they're worried about something else going on. And I think that's really true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Actually, there's a term for that, and it's called phubbing. It's
Fubbing.
PHUBBING, phubbing. So when you're with someone, let's say out to dinner, or you're standing with them in line, all of a sudden, or you and I are talking, all of a sudden I pick up my phone and I just begin to scroll through Instagram, or I just begin to answer a text message. I'm phubbing you, and you're absolutely right. It's a micro rejection. I'm not present to the moment. It definitely takes away from the entire experience, and it makes the other person feel like, oh, I'm not interesting enough.
I'm not
Nobody wants
interested
to feel
enough.
that.
No, I think that's really key. Okay. And sorry, I interrupted you. What was the last one?
Yeah. And the last point is understanding. I find that in communication, everybody says communication is key, active listening is key, but I think what's even more important is understanding one another. I really am a huge proponent of active listening and being able to reflect to one another, to be able to say to one another what it is that you're understanding, how you're interpreting how people are communicating to you. Because a lot of times we have to remember that we put our filter of our walk of life and interpret things that people say to us or conversations based on that, when we really need to take a step back and really understand what that person's trying to communicate to us. And understanding actually will reduce conflict, right? If we can understand one another, we can avoid misunderstandings, which then avoids for our feelings to get involved, for our feelings to turn into facts. A lot of times when there's misunderstandings or there's conflict or there's assumptions made or we feel rejected, it's because we tend to create a story in our mind instead of asking for clarity, instead of asking or saying back to the person what it is that we understood. And that's really big. That's one of the most important things that I've learned in my past career is understanding, because when people feel understood, they feel seen, they feel heard. And secondly, I've even seen that to be true in this career as a matchmaker, not only as a CEO leading a team, but also as talking to my clients and giving them the tools to help them. Don't be so quick to say no to someone. Hold on a second. What assumptions are there? What's going on? Is this coming back from a past experience, right? And being able to recognize that. And I think those are really the components to building healthy habits for dating and in relationships overall.
I can't agree more. It's that old line about first seek to understand and then seek to be understood. That too often we end up wanting to make our argument and wanting to respond rather than actually actively listening to the person
Yes.
that we're talking to and meeting. I had a boss who used that old line about God gave us two ears and one mouth so that we could listen twice as much as we talked. And then he would, when I would quote him back, he would interrupt me and say, but also think about it. He gave us two ears and one mouth. The mouth can close. The ears never close up, and the ears listen in every direction. The mouth only goes in one direction. And so therefore God really designed us far better to listen than to talk. And I think that's really critical. But, how do you do that? You talked about active listening. You had this failed marriage. You described that you went to all these different, advisory, marriage counseling, and other things that would, one think, help you try to listen and understand. What are the keys to actually listening and understanding somebody?
Yeah, so I really do believe that the first thing is, I think, and you hit the nail on the head, is like listening to not respond. Like you're listening not to formulate and be able to say, oh, or defend yourself. I think a lot of time when we respond, we're trying to justify or defend ourselves, and because we start feeling attacked, right? So being mindful of like, okay, I'm just going to listen to this person and then let them say, okay, so here's a really easy phrase. So what I understand that you said, or what I heard you say, was XYZ. Okay, is that correct? And just asking for that. And some people have said to me, well, doesn't that make the conversation longer? Doesn't it drag it on? And actually it doesn't, because then in that moment, if you and I are having a conversation and I'm listening and I'm understanding what you're saying to me, then we can move on to the next point. Then I'm able to say to you how I feel or what I think about that, right? And if I'm incorrect, it gives you the opportunity, 30 seconds, to be able to say, no, actually, this is what I was trying to say. And so then the person can take a moment to be able to reflect on that and be like, oh, okay. And it changes, and it also disarms people. Another part of active listening is also mirroring body language. Body language is huge. I mean, the little nonverbal cues, as I like to call them, the microaggressions or non-microaggressions that we have, like, do you lean in? Are you rolling your eyes? Are you looking away? All those things send messages when you're talking to someone. That's a part of active listening, is being mindful of your body language, being mindful of how you're presenting yourself to this person. I think last but not least, with active listening, it's something that nobody's born. We're not taught this in school. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. After my divorce, I went through a therapist. I hired a life coach. I went through my own journey, and then thank God I was able to meet someone who was at my level, who wanted the same things, who understood what it was like to be able to practice these things, and was emotionally mature. That is really key in terms of being able to listen and hear and understand one another. I would say, like, therapy, the best tool, whether you hire a therapist, a dating coach, a relationship coach, hiring an expert that will really help you learn these tools is crucial. If I want to lose weight, I go and I hire a trainer, right? If I want to go and learn something new, I go and I find an expert. Love is no different.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the three top things are number one, self-love, love yourself. Number two, be present. And number three, understanding. Is that correct?
Yes. Very good.
You
did great,
listening?
Brian. You were actively listening, and you did it so beautifully.
What makes you different than other matchmakers? How is your process different? It sounds to me like it's almost coaching, not just connecting.
Absolutely. I was first a coach when I first got into this industry. And I always say that I've coached over 13,000 hours. I've written a book around it. But I think not only as a matchmaker, because I started as a coach, it makes me different and separates me from other matchmakers out there. But I also think my background, I have been very fortunate to serve, but I was very fortunate to be able to have many different experiences that I'm able to take those lessons and apply them to real life. I honestly feel like I've lived 4 or 5 different lives. It's not every day that you meet a U.S. Marine who, used to work in intelligence, worked with 3-letter agencies all across the world. And all of a sudden, like, you're taking that skill set and you're applying it to human relations, to mating, to that mating process. And I think also the other item is that we are science-based. Everything that we do is really focused on being able to match on key life values and compatibility. It's not just lifestyles and hobbies and what do you like and what are you attracted to? This isn't, like I tell people, this isn't Build-A-Bay, right? You don't come to matchmakers and be like, okay, I'm looking for this, and this. It's like, love comes in many different packages, and it's a matter of being open to what that package looks like. Sometimes our own preconceived notions and our types get in our way, and we can miss out the opportunity on finding love.
Really fascinating. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes, and we're going to chat a little bit more about the 5 different ways you can meet someone. How does matchmaking work? And some other suggestions from Michelle G. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. My guest tonight is Michelle G. She is an award-winning TV host, a celebrity love coach, matchmaker, and relationship expert. Michelle G. is passionate about helping professional singles and overcoming the barriers that hinder them with finding their incredible love. And she runs a business called Incredible Love that you can see on social media. That's how I found her on Instagram. She was friended with someone else I had interviewed, and she's got this incredible experience as a former Marine in intelligence, where she really learned about relationships. And I think that's been the one key. And I guess the other key is probably going through the tough time of the divorce and everything else that led you to where you are. Let me ask you a question. What are the 5 ways to meet someone? You said there's 5 different ways to meet someone. What are they?
Yes. So way number 1 is proximity. So work. Right? You can meet someone. The times have changed. Now people frown upon it. I feel like it's this ebb and flows, but when you're in close proximity to someone, work is one of the ways that you could meet someone. Secondly is through community. So think about churches, think about volunteering organizations, think about anywhere where you're congregated with community. Another way to meet someone is definitely through friends. Friends have single friends. For birds of a feather flock together. And I think, and I tell clients, I tell friends, I'm like, it's okay to tell your friends that you're single and that you're interested. And if they know someone great, that you'd be open to being set up. It doesn't have to be this process of feeling desperate. Then you also have hobbies, exploring new hobbies, going going to new places, doing things that you've never done exposes you to a different network of people. Just like telling your friends, hey, I'm single, I'd like to meet someone. It opens you up to their network. And last but not least, a matchmaking service or online dating, right? It's the vehicle to be able to meet people. It's a tool. A lot of people may not understand, may not like it, but I think part of it too is you have to know how to use that tool in order to make it work for you. Those are the 5 ways to be able to meet someone if you're looking.
Okay, so how do you use this tool? Why do you say you have to know how to use the tool? What do you have to do to use the tool?
Yeah, so online dating is very interesting because now what ends up happening, and I was having this conversation actually just last night. Now we are forced to be our own marketers. Now we're forced to present a brand, a personal brand, a dating brand on online dating. What do you mean? Well, I mean, if you think about it, you go to any website, any business website, you'll usually see about us and you see about the company and the people who work there in a short bio. Essentially, online dating has taken that and transpired that into being able to meet people. Now we put headshots and we put little bios and little prompts to be able to give someone a sense of who we are, kind of a little bit of our essence. And based off of that information, we have to decide, yes, I want to continue talking to this person, or no, I don't. And I'm sorry to say, but how you present yourself is really crucial. So we have to know how to present ourselves and look at online dating from that perspective of you're putting yourself out there as a brand. Everyone now, if you're single, yeah, you're building a brand.
You're building a personal
it's just
brand.
a dating brand. Exactly.
What are the common misconceptions about dating?
Number one, I would say that, okay, once I find my person, everything's going to be fantastic. It's going to be kind of like the Disney movies, happily ever after. And I'm here to tell you, relationships take work, right? The phase of attraction, right? There's different phases in dating. The phase of attraction and infatuation, getting to know one another, isn't something that lasts forever. It's something that you have to continuously feed, that you have to continuously add wood to the fire, if you will. So there's a misconception that when you find this person and you feel all these things, that feeling, right, that euphoria will last through the entire relationship. And that's not true. Secondly, that if you feel euphoria with someone initially, oh my God, that means this is good for me. Like, I should date this person. But if you don't feel that, then it's like, oh, but I didn't feel that chemistry. We focus too much on that feeling of spark, which then ends up preventing us from seeing red flags, from seeing, and we end up focusing on superficiality, and instead of really focusing on long-term compatibility. Like, what are the signs? Am I compatible with this person? I think that those are really misconceptions. And I think part of the reason that there's so many people that struggle is also not being clear on what it is that you want. You think that you're just looking for someone nice and kind and loving. Fantastic. How do they feel? Are they fiscally responsible, right? Do they share the same faith as you? Do they want a family with you? These are real questions that need to be answered, need to be discussed throughout this entire dating process, instead of just staying on, what do you like to do? Or, oh yeah, let's go hang out. Like, there's a lot of grown conversations that have to happen when you're dating.
What makes you different than other matchmakers?
So what makes me different than other matchmakers is, first off, my background, right? So I don't think you're going to meet a U.S. Marine who has the experience that I've had. I've worked with 3-letter agencies all across the world, and being able to really learn about relationship building skills and be in those environments really taught me so much. Secondly, we're a science-based company. Everything that we do is based off of science, how we match people. Really, we talk about the key life values, we talk about compatibility, and not focus on superficial things. Lifestyle hobbies are important, but we really are bringing hearts together, and we want there to be successful, and we know what those elements are when we're matching them. And I think last but not least too, like, I'm uniquely me. I'm not for everyone. I'm very direct. I'm right now, I was working with a celebrity on a TLC show called Darcy and Stacey. And, I'm a little bit of a tough love kind of gal, right? But I do it with all the love in the world because I want my clients to succeed. And I know that definitely makes me different as well.
If people want to check you out and maybe use your services, how do they best do that?
Well, you can reach out to me on all my social media channels. It's at Love by Michelle G. You can also reach me at incrediblelove.com. You can check out our website. You can head over there. There's you can book a free call. I'd love to be able to talk to you, tell you more about matchmaking, answer your questions, or help you find your person, or help you grow in the relationship that you're in.
Michelle G., thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.